Right, boys, I'm just going to go through the task and record this now to make it hopefully a little bit easier for you when the lesson starts. So for the next couple of lessons this week, you're going to move on to a new story. It's called How to Tell a True War Story. So some of you will have your books and some of you won't, which is totally fine. So the actual copy of the text, I put a PDF into this file here. I've got that file there, I've got the PDF there, and I will put it into files and Teams as well, so you've got pretty easy access to it. Before you start reading it, all I want you to do is just listen to this. Hopefully I'll only take about 4 or 5 minutes to kind of talk through, or maybe even less than that. So the things that I want you to think about is just the title of the text is How to Tell a True War Story. So I want you to think about the different interpretations of the meaning of the word true. So true can mean accurate and truthful and factually correct. So when we look at that and we think about it with regards to a war story, we're asking ourselves, does that mean that it is only accurate about what actually took place in that war story? And who decides whether it's accurate? So would a Vietnamese person's experience of a war story be different to an American soldier's experience? Are they both true, or do they only count as true because they're true to them, and therefore is it true to us as readers? You know, where does the truth lie between each person's interpretation or experience of truth? So just trying to think about that. It's this whole concept, and you'll read the story and it will kind of make a whole lot of the other stories really confusing, but that's important. And I think that idea of being completely uncertain about storytelling is what makes this such an interesting text to read. So this one is a really significant text, and it really makes us think about how all the other texts are put together and explored and narrated, and who's reliable. And we've already talked about that when we looked at The Man I Killed in Ambush and which one's the true war story there. So kind of while you're reading the story and you're thinking about truth and what it means, just have that in the back of your head. And then when you've finished that and you've got some time or space, just sort of think back on Ambush, The Man I Killed, and the things they carried, and think about what kind of war story they are and how true or accurate they are. So true can also mean being authentic. So whilst they're not accurate or factual, which we often associate with being true, they are true to the experience of the soldiers. So as long as they've captured the experience that they've got, that's the idea that's going on with them. So then you're thinking about, are they true to who? Which war experience are they being truthful to? The next thing that you need to think about is when we read all of our stories, as I've said, we have to ask ourselves, which version of the truth are we experiencing? Who is that story true to? And it's going to be true to different people in different ways. So true to Tim O'Brien's character. Would another character show it in a different way? So The Man I Killed, how's that story true to Kiowa? And whose voices are we hearing? And that sort of idea. So just be thinking about that as we go through. It's a little bit like of a mind bubbling, twisting experience to sort of think about this. So if this hurts your brain a little bit, like it should, later on in the week I'm going to talk to you about metatextuality. So metatextuality is this idea of like text within text and things like that. So it does link with that. It's a bit of a brain buzz, but give it a go. So we also need to think about the act of telling a story and the act of telling a war story and why they have war stories. So this story is all about stories, so stories within stories and why that's important and what that can offer. So thinking about the need for distraction and attention from telling the story itself, and then writing the story down and relaying a story, and kind of how that links with their brotherhood and their experience and all that. And then in another lesson this week, probably tomorrow, the day after that, I'm going to talk to you in some way about catharsis and how that fits into things. So ultimately, that's everything in a nutshell, but also really quickly. So focusing on these ones there, have a read of those bits in yellow and have a bit of a think about those things, and then you want to go into here and read the story. If you have the copy of the book, as it says there, page 67, just have a gaze at that, and hopefully that'll be relatively straightforward. Awesome.